with that, I think we'll turn things over to Mike Albritton, our SVP of Cloud here at CData, who's going to walk through some of the latest and greatest features of Connect Cloud.
Great. Thanks, Jared and Bruce. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. My name is Mike, as Jared said. Really excited to kind of show you CData Connect Cloud and some of the new features that we've been working on. So first, I wanted to start off with a quick history of Connect Cloud. So CData was founded in 2014. By 2017, we had 100 connectors. Then 2020, we had 200 connectors. And 2021 is where we realized that we needed a cloud native solution. And so, as Amit said earlier, our drivers work really well in many different products. One thing you can't do with the drivers is install it into cloud native technology. So as more reporting tools started going into the cloud, we wanted a solution where customers could connect to all the different data sources live without having to install any software. So we started building that in 2021. 2022, we first launched Connect Cloud with early access to customers. And then in 2023, we had general availability. So Connect Cloud today, we process 1 billion rows per day. We have weekly releases of the product. So we're constantly adding new features and capabilities to the product. And then we have seen very high growth, so 400% growth year over year with the product. So definitely have seen good adoption from customers. And then quickly going over what I'm going to show today, I'm going to demo the product, some of the new features that our team's been working diligently to provide to customers. First feature is going to be a feature called virtual data sets. This is a way for customers to be able to organize, curate, and share their data with other people in the organization. A really cool feature to be able to make data more accessible to other team members. And then we have an AI generator feature, which leverages AI capabilities that enables users to be able to ask logical questions and generate SQL queries so that they don't need to necessarily be SQL experts to be able to use the tool. And then finally, we have an API connector, which Will mentioned earlier, which lets you connect to anything, any data source that has an API. Let's jump right into the product here. So again, first, I want to show off our virtual data sets feature. This, as I said, is a feature that really just lets people organize data and curate data sets so that other people can access the data within your organization. So here I've set up a few different workspaces, which is our top level form of data sets. And I've done it by department. So I have finance and marketing. You can click into a data set. You can search and find different tables and views that people have created or added to this workspace. You can organize by folders. You can click on tables and find out additional information about this table. You can see the columns here. You can also explore the data. You can see that this came from a Salesforce source. And I also want to show you real quick how easy it is to create these data sets. So here's our data explorer. This is where you can write queries and explore your data. I have a query here that I'm going to show that combines data from two different data sets. I think Nathan mentioned it earlier, but you can essentially query data and combine data from two different data sets. Here I have a query. I've already pre-written this query, but it's combining data from my Salesforce connection and a lead table within that Salesforce connection, and also a web visits table that I have in Snowflake. Now, when you join data, you can join on any criteria as long as the two tables have some matching data so that you can combine the data. Here for this demo, I have my web visits table have IDs, and those match the IDs that I have in Salesforce. So you can click execute and you can query this data. And this data is pulling live data from both systems. So we're not copying the data, we're getting live data from Salesforce, we're getting live data from Snowflake, and we're combining it and presenting that to the user. And from here, I can create a derived view, which has already been mentioned a couple of times. This is a view that I'll call this lead visits. But this is a view that other users can now access. You can access this view from within a tool. So we support many different client tools. You've seen Looker. We've talked about Power BI, Excel, many different tools you can access this data from. This view, I also can add to a workspace. So I can add it to my marketing workspace with just a click. And now if I want to go inside my marketing workspace, I'll see this lead visits table. And then other people can come in, they can see this, they can query these views. And then if I want to explore that view, I can come in here, and this is how I would query this view in my data set. Great. So the second one is I want to demo a feature, our AI generator. So AI has seen leaps and bounds as far as the technology has come very recently, especially. So what we've done is we have a lot of information about data that's live in different systems. So we allow the user the ability to ask a question against their own data set and be able to generate a SQL on that query. So I'm going to show you how that works. First, you'd select a connection. I'm going to select Sage Intacct. Whoops, not that one. Then I'm going to select a table. I'm going to ask my question against the sales order document table. You can select multiple tables here if you want. I'm going to pop in a question that I've written, and essentially my question here is, SQL query. I want to ask the generator if it can generate a list of sales orders that are in a pending state and are not past due. So I'm going to click Generate SQL, and it's going to generate a SQL statement for me. If I want to execute that here in the Data Explorer, I can do that, and it's showing me one sales order that is pending and is not yet due. So from here, I can create a derived view if I want. I can add that view to a workspace, just like we've done already, and then I'd be able to query this from any tool that I have, Excel or whatever. Great. And so the last feature that I'd like to show, also a really exciting feature that we have. So as you know, CData, we have connectors to just about everything out there. There are a lot of different data sources that we don't have. Usually if it's a proprietary API or some not common data source, we do get requests for those APIs. This generic API connector allows you to connect to those as long as the data source does have an API. So here I'm going to show you how we would set up a connection to a City Bikes API. So this is a public API that offers information about city bikes in different cities. And so here, the first thing you do is add a connection to create a connection with our API connector. There's no authentication for this API, but if there was, you would set up the authentication type. We also have other options for pagination and custom headers that need to be added. But this one is a very simple API, so we're going to skip this. We're going to go over to the tables section. This is where you model the tables for this API. So here I'm going to click Add Table. I'm going to grab the API for their networks endpoint. Put that in here. And I'm going to name this table networks. It has a JSON response, and then I'm going to click configure. This is going to launch a wizard that walks you through telling CData Connect Cloud how to model the data. So the first step in this wizard is going to show a preview of the API. So it's just a raw preview of what an example request looks like to this API. You click Next. Then this screen is asking you for what the repeat elements are. Repeat elements are what define the rows in how we model the data. So in this case, there's one option. These networks is the repeated row that it detected from the API. I'm going to select that, click Next. Then it's going to ask me which columns I want to include in this table. I'm going to select ID, city, country, latitude, and longitude. And then when I click next, it's going to actually preview a table. So it's building a model of this table, showing me if I'm happy with the response from this table. Then I click next, and it's going to enter the data here for me, which again is defining how CData Connect Cloud is modeling this data. I have the ability to change the data types and set the primary keys and a few other things. Once I'm ready, I click save. And now I have this API modeled in CData. So I can go over to my data explorer. I can click on this API 2 connection that I just created. My networks table's here. I can query it. And it's, again, this is pulling live data from an API that we just set up a connection within a couple of minutes. We also, I'd like to point out, we support filters. So out of the box, this connection is going to be able to filter. So if you wanted to filter only countries in Italy, you can do a filter and it will execute. And all these filters are being done client side, but you can configure the connector to push those filters down to the source as well. So really excited about this feature, really opens the door to be able to connect to many different things out there. So